So, if you've been living under a rock and haven't heard, Valve just announced the Steam Machine. This compact console-sized PC designed for living room gaming with over 6 times the power of the Steam Deck. They also revealed a new Steam controller, which is basically just a Steam Deck without the screen. So I'm actually planning on buying one when it launches. But there's been a lot of confusion about pricing, and I think that's a lot of people are getting hung up on the wrong things. So I just wanted to share my take on what's actually going on here. Let's start with what Valve actually said. According to Linus Tech Tips, Valve told him that the Steam Machine would be priced like a PC rather than a console with games subsidizing the upfront hardware price. Then, on the Friends Per Second podcast, Valve developer Pierre got more specific. He said, I think that if you build a PC from parts and get to basically the same level of performance, that's the general price window that we aim to be at. Ideally, we'd be pretty competitive with that and have a pretty good deal. When they asked him directly if Valve would subsidize the price, he was pretty clear. No, it's more in line with what you might expect from the current PC market. And this is where I think a lot of people are starting to get the wrong idea. A lot of people heard priced like a PC and immediately jumped to $800 or more. Even some comment sections talking about $1,000, $1,200, $1,500. And I think that's a misunderstanding what Valve is actually saying. When people started speculating, hardware analyst Moore's Law's Dead broke down the component costs and estimated around $428 in manufacturing. Then people started arguing about RAM prices, tariffs, supply chain issues, and look, those are all real factors. But honestly, a lot of that is just noise. Most people don't really understand what it's like to produce a hardware product at scale, and they're overcomplicating this. Here's the thing. Small form factor PCs in this performance range aren't actually that expensive. You look at the Mac Mini M4 that starts at $599 with a smaller hard drive. Look at the entry-level gaming laptops with similar specs. They're often in the $600 to $700 range. The idea that PC pricing automatically means $800 plus just doesn't match the current market reality for this class of hardware. And then there was that moment where Linus mentioned a $500 price point to Valve, and this is all Linus relating it, and said the energy in the room wasn't great. A lot of people interpreted what Valve was hinting at, that it would be way more expensive, but I think that's being so overread into. It could have just been awkwardness about the continued focus that Linus kept having on console-style pricing when they'd already explained they weren't doing that. So why is Valve being so explicit about not subsidizing the hardware? This is where things get really interesting, and I have a little bit of a theory, though I want to be clear, this is just my take. Some people have been airing concerns about Steam being a monopoly and that Valve is in big trouble. I don't think it's primarily about antitrust lawsuits. Though those do exist, yeah, Valve is facing class action suits claiming anti-competitive practices around pricing. Yeah, they involve thousands of publishers, blah, blah, blah. But here's my take. Those lawsuits are way overblown. Monopolies don't just exist because you have a better product and people choose you over the competition. The Epic Game Store exists. It can even run on a Steam Deck. They've been giving away hundreds of free games on Epic Store and they still just can't touch Steam. Not because Valve is blocking them. It's available on the Steam Deck. But because Steam is more than just a store. Features like Steam Input, the workshop, the seamless way Steam allows you to launch games from other stores. Those are all reasons people choose Steam. It's just a better, more mature product. So while the lawsuits might be a factor Valve is thinking about, especially since they're approaching a new market niche with this hardware, I don't think that's the main reason for their pricing approach, and it's ridiculous to call them a monopoly. I think the real reason is just much simpler. They don't want to look like they're entering the console market as an attack on existing hardware manufacturers. They're barely a competitor. Think about it. Sony and Microsoft subsidize consoles because they need to. They've been building an ecosystem from scratch, trying to pull away from PC market, fighting for market share, trying to justify third-party developer support. Valve already has the ecosystem. They already have the developers. They already have the users. Steam is the dominant PC gaming platform, and yeah, I said dominant, not monopolistic, because there is a big difference. Why would they undercut themselves by selling hardware at a loss? They don't need to buy market share. They're not trying to force Sony and Microsoft out of living rooms. They're just offering another option for people who want PC gaming in a console form factor. And honestly, I think being explicit about not subsidizing is smart. It signals to the console makers we're not trying to start a price war, we're playing a completely different game. Now, some people have mentioned that Valve might be gun shy because of how the original Steam machines flopped way back in 2015. And sure, They probably learned a lot from that experience, and I bet mainly they need to do it themselves from end to end rather than relying on third-party manufacturers who had wildly different and inconsistent pricing and specs. But I don't think they're scared of pricing it wrong. I think they've learned their lesson and they learned to control the product end to end, and that's what they're doing right now. So what do I actually expect the Steam Machine to cost? Based on everything we know, the specs, the form factor, comparable products on the market, blah, 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 I'm expecting a price range of between $600 and $750, depending on storage. My guess is that the base model is most likely going to be around $699. Is that more than a PS5? Yes, it can do more than a PS5. You need to stop comparing a subsidized console hardware to non-subsidized PC hardware. Compare it to building a PC with similar specs, or compare it to a gaming laptop with those specs. And $699 is actually very reasonable. Pierre mentioned on the podcast that pricing is hard to nail down right now because there's a lot of different things that are fluctuating. I think that they have a rough idea of what they're actually aiming for, but contracts haven't been finalized yet, partly because of the AI-driven surge in RAM costs that's been affecting the entire gaming industry. Would I prefer it to be cheaper? Of course. My personal "this is getting too expensive" threshold is probably around $750, but even at $700, I'm still planning on buying one. So why am I still buying one? For someone in my position, this is a pretty compelling upgrade. My 2018 PC is showing its age, as I mentioned, and the Steam Machine offers something I just can't replicate myself. The form factor is perfect for living room gaming. SteamOS is genuinely absolutely a joy to use. There's no Windows bloat, no driver issues, and it just works. And all those integration features Pierre mentioned in the podcast. HDMI CEC and Bluetooth work with 4 antennas for multiple controllers, and the fact that it's reportedly incredibly quiet. These add up to something that's more than just the sum of its parts. Personally, I don't play competitive games on multiplayer, so I'm not really worried about the Steam Deck's lack of easy anti-cheat support. Though technically they do support easy anti-cheat, it's developers that tend to turn it off. Could I build a PC with similar specs? Sure. But I'd be dealing with Windows. I hate Windows. I'm a Mac guy, and I like Linux. But if I was dealing with my own build, I'd need a much larger case, and I wouldn't get the polish and integration. The Steam Machine hits a very sweet spot between power, convenience, and form factor. So here's what I want people to take away from this. Priced like a PC doesn't mean $800 or more. It means priced based on what the hardware costs plus a reasonable margin, similar to how other PC manufacturers price comparable products. And here's the other thing. I keep seeing people call Steam a monopoly, and I think that's just fundamentally wrong. Having the best product that people choose to use doesn't make you a monopoly. Competition exists. It even exists on their own hardware. Epic, Good Old Games, Microsoft Store, they're all there. They're all usable on the Steam OS right now. Steam just does it a lot better, and that's why people use it. Valve isn't subsidizing the Steam Machine because they don't need to attack the console market with predatory pricing. They already have the platform dominance. This is just offering another way for their platform to access their games and for only the people who want it. My prediction, $699 for the base model, maybe $799 for higher storage. That might sound like a lot compared to a PS5, but compare it to the actual market for small form factor PCs with these same specs, and it's going to be very competitive. And that's what they said they're aiming for. And honestly, I'm just so excited. This is the living room PC gaming device that I have been waiting for, and even at $700, I think it's worth it for what it offers. So what do you think? Am I way off on my price prediction? Do you think the price like a PC statement means something completely different than I've said? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.